Hi. First, I'd like to thank you to the BIM Coordinator Summit for the invite, and it's an honor to participate in this conference. It's the first time that I will be joining virtually on the Dublin event. Um, I wish I could be there. Unfortunately, it's not possible, but I'm looking forward to share and to hear from you in your feedback about the presentation. So today, I'm going to take you about this idea of after 40 years of BIM, how can we learn to thrive in the upcoming AI revolution? It's an idea that came up from discussing what could we actually learn looking at the past on our experience on BIM to actually prepare us for the future with our upcoming AI revolution. So let me start by saying that some time ago in a not too far galaxy, and if you are like me a fan of Star Wars, you probably already identified this starting. Um, there was the floppy disk, and those of you that are as old as me probably are familiar with it. But then I realized that maybe some of us are actually too young to remember what is the floppy disk. So the floppy disk was a type of disk storage composed of a thin and flexible disk and magnetic storage medium. So it's a data storage event. So the funny thing is that if you are familiar with the floppy disk, you probably are familiar also with Pong. Pong was a game, probably the first game that I ever played in a computer. It was from 1975, and it was kind of a tennis lookalike game. If you're not, at least you should be familiar with the Pac-Man. Pac-Man that was created in 1980. And if you don't actually know it, the original, you might at least know it from the movie The Ghost in the Machine, Pac-Man. All of this to say that from that floppy disks to floppy robots that we have today, humanoid robots like in this picture with Niv, the CEO, Jensen Nguyen, where you can see the sophistication of robots that we can have. We have come far per way in just a lifespan of a generation, not much more than 40 years. So we'll get you through this how have we evolved so quickly, and how can we learn from the past to actually prepare us for the future? But first, let me talk a little bit about IDES. So IDES is one of the top 11 architectural firms over the last 19 years. We believe that great design can only be achieved with people that have a deep and social and cultural understanding of the communities they are designing for. And this has informed our global presence strategy located in 12 cities with over 1,100 talents, operating as a global network, providing services such as architectural interiors, graphical, urban design, and master planning in such diverse sectors as mixed use, infrastructure, culture and sports industry, hotel, office, residential. At the core of our work is our commitment to quality, a quality that we are very proud to see acknowledged by our peers in the industry with more than 1,080 international design awards. At the IDES Singapore, we see BIM beyond just BIM. We focus on integrated digital delivery, training and advisory, digital design, visual screenplay, etc. The IDES Singapore office was founded in 1995 and is the second biggest in the group, with over 200 diverse designers and staff. We are very proud to have contributed to some of the most iconic buildings in Singapore, such as the Marina Bay Sands Integrated Resort, or the restoration of the iconic Raffles Hotel, or even the Star Vista, commercial development, or the Sandcrawler. So allow me to talk a little bit about myself. So my name is Fred Ramos. I'm an architect with a second degree in environmental planning, and I'm a digitalization enthusiast with conferences in such diverse places as the Asia, Tokyo, Osaka, Singapore, or Europe and the Middle East. So getting us back to the topic of this presentation, after 40 years of BIM, how can we learn to thrive in the AI upcoming revolution? We will be reflecting on the past to prepare us for the future. So how does everything begin? So everything began probably with the Apple Macintosh that was first released over 40 years ago. And why is it so important, the Apple Macintosh? Because although there is a little bit of debate in terms of what was actually the beginning of BIM, with people arguing that the concept of BIM was early introduced and who was actually that first introduced it, that first materialized it. One thing that we all seem to agree is that the first implementation of BIM was actually the Archicad launch, that it was launched circa in 1984-87. That was first called Radar CH and later was called Archicad. And this was actually running in the Apple Macintosh, and that's the relevance of it. For those like you, like me, that have these white hairs and are old enough to remember, we used to draw buildings like this. So from draftsman's room, passing to CAD solutions was already a very big jump. But within the same generation, we actually move on to BIM and VR as the tools to design buildings, in what is actually durational quantum leap. We have come a long way in what we have achieved with BIM since its beginning until the position that we are now. We were able to streamline the design processes. So today, within the same software of BIM, we can easily start by developing what is the design brief, allocating areas to a design program and to a series of rooms that then allows us to develop a design that responds to it, that then constantly monitoring what we are developing against what was the targets initially requested by the clients. Although we don't in AEC tend to believe that the straight line is the fastest way from A to B, BIM really contributed to streamline the design process. But it's also achievement of BIM, this idea of the enhanced collaboration. Today, when we talk about BIM, there's no questions the importance that we all agree that collaboration has. And today, from the initial applications of BIM that works for a single user, we have models hosted in clouds in common data environmental solutions that allow us to develop in simultaneously the same model shared by several different authoring design consultancies. Even if we are just arguing over who messed up the last model, and it's very common, although all the tool is there, we are still human. And at the end of the day, whenever someone ruins something for us, we still argue with each other. It's the reality is that we have now the possibility of doing 24/7 transparent and effective collaboration with each other. And one of the things that BIM has allowed us to is this idea of improve accuracy. And improve accuracy, why? Because in reality, we are now using a process that allows us to actually build 2 times the same asset. First, we build it virtually in our BIM information model, and then we actually implemented it again on site. So we can easily identify any possible mistakes in our vertical design and construction process. But of course, at the end of the day, if mistakes are there, because we're only human, the mistakes are still going to happen, like the example on our image. And challenge of BIM, at some point, we all had our moments of complete despair with BIM, and we had to break a few eggs. It's actually funny, when I was sharing this image with some of my colleagues, they were actually saying that it's actually so funny that the images of a person that doesn't even have air, because sometimes we are just so frustrated that we just want to pull out our air. And that's actually what a lot of times the steep learning curve of BIM forces to, is so infuriating that we just want to pull our air. And I still remember when I started to work on BIM, uh, simple tasks like moving a door could take me for 1 hour because I couldn't control the software. And is this exasperation of relearning everything again and again, and always trying to keep up with the evolution, is quite difficult. And the problem also of BIM is that it is not an easy process to learn. Even if you have transitioned successfully from 2D to CAD, to transition from CAD to BIM, it's a exponential, much more complex jump than the initial jump from 2D and draftsman to 2D CAD. Another of the challenges of BIM, of course, is the compatibility issues. And I always remember this discussion that I have with some of my good friends on the Graphisoft. When I started to actually do these public talks, one of the first talks that I did was on the key client conference in Budapest with Graphisoft. And we were discussing this idea of interoperability and how could we achieve interoperability or not interoperability. And the reality is that even today, we don't have full compatibility between different softwares. Yes, we have a much better understanding of IFC, and the industry is much better, has adopted it much more than before. But as I used to say, true interoperability, it will be the moment where we can actually save in a format in ArchiCAD and open it in Revit, change it something, and then bring it back to ArchiCAD and open it again without any problems. We are still far from that. We have IFC that allows us to migrate information from one side to the other, but it's not yet that. And we all remember the eternal wars between Revit and ArchiCAD that for years and years generated lots and lots of blogs, discussions. And the third challenge of BIM is, of course, the resistance to change. No matter what, the AEC industry is very, very adverse to change. One of the industries that is more adverse to change. That is quite surprising because, in a way, the AEC industry should be quite technological in terms of construction, but it's very hard to convince people to change it. It might be that is the case that the changes that we are asking them to do are just tremendous, as we explained before, in terms of how much we have evolved from draftsman to CAD to BIM in just a little bit more than 40 years. But the reality is we like to do things because we have always do it like that, and we tend to repeat it. Even when someone is offering us a better solution, like a wheel that is a circle, we still say no because we are just too busy trying to push our square wheel. So how do we thrive in the AI revolution? BIM plus AI, is it a match made in the construction, Evan, or is it a challenge? Okay, we all know that the potential for AI to improve BIM is huge. An example that is often quoted is this possibility of doing automation of repetitive tasks. Like, for example, we all remember that particular project when we needed to adjust 10,000 panels, but with the help of automation and AI, we can easily do it, or AI does it for us. But also, in the aspects of predictive analysis, and predictive analysis or even evolutionary algorithms have the huge advantage of allow us for the first time having a tool at our disposal that allows us to run almost infinite amounts of numbers of iterations of ideas to actually fine tune our solution, because AI doesn't get tired, unlike as humans that still need to rest. And of course, AI has the potential to enhance our decision making. Enhance our decision making because it allows us to focus on what is essential. And AI doesn't have meetings that could have been emails, because AI just focus on getting to the solution. Can BIM be a source of ideas, and what has BIM taught us about change? We know that whenever we're working in BIM, as it is expected that will become whenever we are working with AI, flexibility is going to be a key fundamental skill that we will need to develop. Flexibility to deal with changing process, but also flexibility to deal with the uncertainty and things that are not planned, like because the softwares will always update when we are not ready, when either we are ready or not. It's just what it happens. And to be honest, we are never ready for an update. Like the cartoon on the screen, even when we realize that this is a fundamental update, whenever it requires us to restart, typically, we just like to say, remind us later. There's no ideal moment, so sometimes it's just better deal with it when it comes. A designer that is in Singapore can actually be coordinating with an engineer that is located in Australia about a project that is in the Middle East for a client that is on USA, and all of them collaborating real time in a model, although they are literally spread around the world. But if collaboration is already everything in BIM, with AI is going to be even more exponential, because for the first time, we are going to be prepared for the idea of co-authoring shared co-authorship with AI, humans and AI co-authorship. And it will be a process of continuous learning. Like in BIM, AI will force us to constantly learn and adapt. And we shouldn't be too worried about that, because in reality, things will make sense somehow, and they tend to come together in something that is logic. And let's be honest, if even today we don't have fully understood BIM that has been around for more than 40 years, it will probably not be so much different in AI, and it will take us some time to fully understand the AI. That is now a technology that is developing, starting to develop and starting to really come up with new solutions. So it's just expect that you need to learn, you need to be flexible, and you need to understand that collaboration is key of success. So what is the road ahead? I think at the end of the day, when you look at AI and BIM and whatever is going to be behind that, beyond that in our future, we need to keep this attitude of keep calm, smile, and BIM on. Because BIM will still be here, and AI is not going to replace BIM. It's going to change it, it's going to evolve it, but it's not the same thing. So what does the future hold? And if you look at everything that is being written and everything that has been said, there is tons of different opinions of what AI is going to be and what the future is going to hold for us. But the honest, true answer is no one knows. But one thing is for sure, it is going to be quite interesting. We will see an integration of AI in design and construction, as we are seeing it already in every other aspects of our life. The AEC industry is not going to be different. In reality, you already see it today. You can imagine a world where the models update themselves, because even today, there are already solutions from BIM that are powered by AI that could populate a typical detail that you have done in one node through all the similar interfaces that exist in the entire model. It is not yet fully update themselves, but is actually already populating in a smart and intelligent way interpretation of what is a particular junction or a particular solution of modeling that can then be replicated throughout. And yes, there's going to be a potential for new roles and opportunities, but this will not come without maybe some few more headaches. So you better get your Panadol ready and be ready to actually experience a little bit of some hiccups, because it's just normal. You are evolving something that is expected, not normal, but is expected, because we are evolving something that is a radical transformation of the process that we use. So the big question is, how do you get ready for the next 40 years? Are we ready for the next 40 years? Although understanding that no one knows exactly what the next 40 years are going to be, we know for sure that AI will play a key role on it. And we know also that we should learn from what we have done with BIM. A lot of times, BIM challenges that we have still today are not so much because of technology, are not so much because of the process of BIM. They are a lot the result of resistance to change from the human side. We need to dare to change. And instead of trying to shoehorn a new technology into the existing process, if you really want to take advantage of the new technology, we need to be prepared to look at what is the technologies, solutions that we have currently, and completely rethink our processes so that they can become really effective and maximizing the potential of the current solution. It is not about how do we do what we do in a more efficient way. Is how do we achieve the final end, and the final end is the construction product, using the available technology that we have today to in the most effective way. And the moment that you are ready to do this change, where you say, I'm not a prisoner of my current process, you really liberate the exponential potential of improvement of the new technology. And the next idea is this idea of embrace. We really need to be ready to embrace AI. Because I tell you one thing, and there's a lot of people that always talks about this idea, oh, but AI is going to replace my work. AI is going to come after us. It's not clearly evident that that will be the case. There might be cases where this happens, but in reality, there's plenty of examples of successful collaboration between humans and AI. One thing is for sure, AI might not take your job, but people that know your AI will definitely replace people that don't know AI. So for those of you that are used to seeing my presentations, you know that I always like to finish the presentations with a statement. And this time I brings you a statement from John Fitzgerald Kennedy. We choose to do things not because they are easy, but because they are hard, because the goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept. And this is a challenge that we have, the challenge of actually embrace the technology solutions, commit with them, really be ready to change, and for once it for all, use AI to overcome the mistakes and challenges that we have encountered in the BIM implementation 40 years that we have experienced. Thank you very much.